Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, nomadcapitalist.com here in Istanbul, Turkey, and wanted to talk about an interesting look at how to get a second passport and how you can actually get paid to do that. Now, I recently put out a number of videos on citizenship by investment programs. You should definitely subscribe to our channel if you haven't already and check those out because they are often worth the investment for certain types of people. But one thing that I look at when creating a passport portfolio is how to do that in a financially efficient way. And when you look at the idea of making a donation for citizenship by investment, i.e. going to Dominica, St. Lucia, wherever, and donating 100 grand or more, or you look at the slower track, the traditional track of naturalization, where you get a residence permit and wait, even if you don't have to live there, either of those ways you're not going to make money. And so what I find interesting is some of the newer economic citizenship programs, as well as some of the lesser known citizenship programs that are fast-tracked, where you can actually make an investment and actually make a profit on that investment. So if you go to Antigua, if you go to Grenada and other places that sell passports in the Caribbean, that offer citizenship by investment, the real estate programs there are not really designed to make you money. They're designed to give you a passport, and certain people prefer to buy a property then make the donation, even though the donation is oftentimes a better deal. So in one example, in one of the islands in the Caribbean, you can invest $350,000, and one of the options from the developer is we'll buy it back from you in 5 years at the same price, no appreciation, but we'll buy it back from you. And so you'll basically have spent $50,000 plus your legal fees, plus your, all your processing fees, government fees, etc. You'll basically be not much different than where you were with the donation option. What is interesting is here in Turkey, if you invest $1 million, you can get a citizenship. There is a deed restriction on those properties that you have to hold them for 3 years. But this program was passed about a year ago. We did a video on it at the time. I said that I felt it was expensive. Others in the community are now echoing that sentiment, including the Turkish government, who is receiving some pressure from developers who are saying they're not getting the boost that they had hoped for from this program, and there's talk that they may lower it. But it's very interesting because, I was just looking at some properties here in Istanbul yesterday. If you invest $1 million correctly and hold it for 3 years, you could very well make a profit of 15, 20, 25%. Even when you subtract out some of the legal fees and the cost of actually getting the passport and doing everything to get it set up. So imagine, yes, $1 million for a lot of folks is a large number. But imagine, making a 15% return on that $1 million that you invested not because it was your #1 investment of choice, but because you wanted a passport, but you still ended up making money. I work with people privately on some of the fast-track programs where you, can invest lesser amounts of money and get a passport in, maybe not immediately, maybe not in a month, in 1 year, in 2 years. And, let's say you invest, $250,000, which is in the realm of what you'd invest in the Caribbean for their programs, but that $250,000 could become $300,000. I recently ran the numbers with somebody where we said, all right, invest $500,000 and you should make about 24% a year over the next 2 years, and you can claim a passport. I'm working on, working with some attorneys. I had to really spend, a lot of time scratching and clawing and looking for good ones. But there's a new program in a country in Europe where you can get a citizenship by investing, about $300,000. And you can get that passport in as little as 2 months. And again, the issue is if you can invest that money correctly, I don't think that one will be as much of a growth country, but you could make a couple percent a year. You could rent the properties out. You could probably make 7, 8, 9% a year in terms of yield plus appreciation. And if you really want to focus on it and make that your full-time job and maximizing that return, you could probably get it to 12 or 13% total return. So very interesting stuff. And I think definitely something that should be considered when you're looking for a second passport. How do I potentially get paid to get this second passport? How do I invest my money that can come back to me in the future in assets that I control, in assets that I choose, so not just from a list of 12 real estate projects in the Caribbean, but assets that I choose? How do I go out in the open market and find real estate or other investments of my choice, put my money into them for a certain amount of time, and then take it out with a profit? and that profit easily pays for the cost of the administration and the legal fees to get the passport, and I can get a passport maybe a little bit slower than a citizenship by investment, maybe not 6 months, although the one here in Europe will be just as fast, but maybe it takes a bit longer. You know, if I'm willing to wait 6 months more, maybe rather than paying $100,000, I can make a profit. Now, for some people like me, maybe you can even turn that into a passport portfolio where you say, hey, I'm gonna make that $500,000 investment, make the 25% a year, do that for 1 year, get my passport over there, and then I'm gonna take that $125,000 and go buy the passport in the Caribbean. Now I've got two, and it costs me nothing. And so that's another interesting take, is that if you're looking to perhaps renounce your citizenship, if you really want to create a great portfolio of passports that literally doubles or triples your options, that can be a way to do it. And maybe you don't make a huge profit, but maybe you just come out not spending anything after it's all said and done. So definitely something worth considering. Before you go out and get a second passport, figure out, is there a way that I can make money doing this? This is what I've spent 10 years figuring out. Obviously, most people who first get into this space think there's only two ways. There's second residence, and there's plunking down a bunch of money. There are other programs. You have to make sure that they're legal, that there's some kind of constitutional provision for them. We don't want to be doing any deals where we're handing people envelopes of money. Everything needs to be accounted for in the country's laws. So you always want to ask to see that before you do any of these deals. But provided that it's a legal program allowed for in the country's laws, then it's definitely worth considering how you can actually turn a profit and at the same time help another country's economy, because they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't help. So we've got a lot of videos here on YouTube, including 4 ways to get a second passport without spending millions. Definitely recommend you check that out. Definitely recommend, if you're a US citizen, watching a lot of the videos about how second passports help US citizens, cryptocurrency investors, and many others. So subscribe to the channel, and if you want our more advanced strategies, or if you want to work with us directly, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com.